a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a ride.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expanding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality. I am your host, Brandon Thomas. On this episode, guys, I got a chance to sit down with Barbara Mango and Lynn Miller. They are co-authors of this amazing book called Convergence, the Interconnection of Extraordinary Experiences. They cover four main experiences in here. They do out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, UAP or UFO phenomena, and past life memories. It is a fascinating book written by two, as Barbara will tell you, experiencers first and then scientists second. So they are very deep and entrenched into the experiential nature of these extremely extraordinary phenomena and the interconnection of all of them. And it is a wonderful episode, guys. We have a fantastic conversation. Enjoy the hell out of it as I did. And thank you all so much for listening. So without any further ado, Barbara Mango and Lynn Miller. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce Barbara Mango and Lynn Miller to the show. They wrote an incredible book, Convergence, the Interconnection of Extraordinary Experiences. I have pored over this book. This is it right here. Absolutely love it. Thank you all so much for sending me a beautifully signed copy. Y'all wrote some very sweet messages in here, and I am grateful. So I have gone through your book like crazy. I cannot wait to talk to you about it because it is fantastic. It is exactly what we need right now as far as the marrying between the physics and the philosophy, the science and the experience. This is, I think, the most important thing we're going into right now, is because this is what will validate all of this stuff. So, Barbara, we'll start with you. If you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into it.
Okay. Well, I have a PhD in metaphysics, which I got after working in the educational field for a long time. And I ended up falling and breaking my back, so I could no longer work in education. And I sat there and I thought, what can I do? I have to sort of reshuffle my life, right? And go inward. So I was thinking about it, and I'm a total learning nerd. Like, I love learning. So I thought, God, what if they could teach, or I could find a program that takes me back to who I am, as an lifelong experiencer, and I could actually research and study this stuff. So I started thinking about it, and I found a program in metaphysics that had a master's and PhD program. And I started taking the classes, and like each one was cooler than the next. And I loved it. I literally couldn't put the books down. So after I graduated from that, I've been writing. I've written a few articles. I've written chapters for other books. Lynn and I worked on the Edgar Mitchell Research Foundation together. I'm a board member of the Past Life Research Institute. And this was our debut book. Lynn and I, when working on the Edgar Mitchell Research Foundation, we not only had a lot of commonalities personally, but we had a total connection as far as how we view, consciousness, being non-local. And we decided to write a book about it. And that was 3 years ago. And here we are.
It's a fantastic book. Like I said, of course, the audience here knows that I will be linking that in the show notes, so you guys could just click below in the description there and find that book out. Now, the Edgar Mitchell Foundation, Edgar Mitchell, of course, is the sixth man to walk on the moon, allegedly.
Correct.
So Lynn, tell us just a little bit about yourself, darling.
Oh, yes. From a very young age, I've always been interested in the paranormal. I would have dreams of all kinds of things. As a matter of fact, when I was young, it was very difficult for me to tell the difference between reality and not reality, because I had 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 so many strange experiences. So later in life, I actually did become quite normal, and I got a dual degree in psychology and biology. And then I started teaching college biology laboratories, and then I got my master's in biology, and I've worked in my field as a microbiologist. And then I had my daughter sort of later in life, and I decided to go into teaching secondary education. So I've done quite a bit of that. I have about 12 years experience teaching high school, elementary science. I'm also certified in art, and I teach art also. And I guess the really huge paradigm shift for me occurred around 2006 with, I happened to come upon a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know? And, it's about quantum physics and our reality, and that pretty much changed everything. I started to read more books, get into spirituality, meditate more. And I also noticed that I was having more and more experiences, which ended up becoming out-of-body experiences, which I've had all my life. And through books and through different groups and with the help of many people, I learned how to control them. And that kind of brought us up to, when Hammy and Barbara met with the Free Foundation, which is the Dr. Edgar Mitchell. And then she sort of explained how we were writing a chapter for Beyond UFOs, and we decided to write our own book. And that's how it came to be.
So cool. And like I said, fantastic book, ladies. I've literally poured over it quite a bit here, especially because this is our third time to do this. So I want to let the audience in on a fun little thing that we've been just having a little game with. So first time that we tried this was a little bit ago, and we had a bunch of technical problems. I could not get my shit together in the studio. Something was happening, and we just had to shut it down. It's just one of those things, right? And then we had another one scheduled, and then all of a sudden, Lynn decided that her appendix was useless and wanted to explode on her. And so the day that we were to record, she decided just to go in the ER. And I said, look, just if you don't want to do the show, just don't, just tell me, right? And so it is third time's a charm, and not for nothing, we're in Mercury in retrograde right now. So,
Yeah, that's scary.
We'll see. So far, so good. So we're having fun. No, you ladies are fantastic. Y'all been such good sports with rescheduling and stuff like that. And of course, Lynn, we're glad that everything's okay. Do you feel lighter? Do you feel more aerodynamic now that you've gotten that out?
It's not all out yet.
Okay, gotcha.
So I have to go back into the hospital, and they're gonna put another tube in me.
Awesome.
So it's quite not over yet. I've been meditating over it, trying to bring in the universe and energy to help cure all this. But I am feeling pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. So while most kids are out at the pools with an inner tube, you're going to have an inner tube installed in you. Okay. Interesting.
Yes, sort of.
All right. Well,
yeah.
Now let's get into the deep shit now, ladies. So, you okay, Barbara?
Okay.
I told you this is humor hour. Okay, I'm controlling myself.
Giddy, and we're having a good time with it. So let's break it off here, girls. So I'll start with you, Barbara. So what do you think the physical world is? Do you think that that's all there is, or do you think that there's something extra perceptionary outside of what we can conceive with our five senses?
Oh, I absolutely think that. I think the physical world to me is very confining. It's very dense, consists of five senses. And once a person has had any type of spiritual or extraordinary or paranormal, anything you would call it, experience, where you're outside of your body, not necessarily having an out-of-body experience, but where you're having an experience that occurs outside of time and space as we know it on Earth, that's heightened. I call it realer than real, because it really is. It's so intense. It's profound. It's life-altering. And I personally experience these in multi-dimensions. Now, this isn't something I can do in everyday three-dimensional consciousness. And I've been given information, like downloaded telepathic information that I never would have known. It's beyond my scope of knowing. And so from the time I was a small child, because my first experience happened when I was 2, I was aware even at 2, there was a part of my brain that was saying, okay, like you're 2 years old, man, you should be playing with dolls. Like instead, I'm getting telepathic communication about really universal topics from, I called her a guardian angel or a spirit guide. She may have been a non-intelligent human being, but she came to visit me when I was 2. So that's when all this started. So from childhood, I've never been able to conceive, right, of consciousness that is just localized to the brain. That just is not in my paradigm. It never has been. So that's how I view it.
I love the idea.
And then sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and once you have these experiences, right, and they're just, and you've probably heard this a million times, but you can't put them into words. It's so confining, language. But when you come back, you feel like you're just smashed and smushed into this really dense, limited body, right? And you realize how expansive and unlimited consciousness really is. And it's a little disappointing, but we have to live in the real world, right? So that's my view on it. And like I said, it was formed in childhood from a very, very young age.
Have either of you ladies been to the Grand Canyon?
I've flown over it in a prop plane, like for a tour, a sunset, flyover, but I've never actually been to it.
Okay, so you were Grand Canyon adjacent. Lynn, have you ever been to the
Correct.
Grand Canyon?
No.
No? Okay. It's one of these things. What you were just explaining, Barbara, that's how it feels. I could not tell you what it's like to go to the Grand Canyon. I've been twice. It's fascinating. It's mind-blowing, the scope of it. You'll see pictures. It does not do it. When you're standing there on the precipice of this damn thing, it's insane how massive and grand it is, right? So it's kind of like these experiences lend themselves to the idea of trying to explain something as majestic as the Grand Canyon or something as profound as a psychedelic experience, because you can't really explain those either. Not to any validity, right? They would just fall short. So Barbara, or Lynn, rather, we've already been talking about the non-locality of consciousness, but tell me a little bit more about that. Is that the idea that we are just more like receivers or transmitters of something, that we're just kind of passing through consciousness, like we're a conduit for it?
There's different ways of explaining that. It's almost like, let's say, our physical brain, or what we view as our physical brain, is definitely a conduit to it. Sort of like a dampening field, because I feel like, we are interdimensional beings. We exist outside of this physical reality, and that our brains are able to, help us with this type of reality that we're living in. Of course, through process of evolution and certain things, we, in a normal waking consciousness, are pretty present in this physical reality. Because if we weren't, think of, a time when the saber-toothed tiger might have been trying to attack us, and, we had to be really present. But yes, I feel like that our consciousness is non-local. It is outside of our physical brains. It exists interdimensionally. How do I know this? I know that, through certain science investigations, they feel that consciousness is very quantum, it has a lot of quantum effects to it. And I do know that through the experiences that I have had, and like you said, it's sort of like looking, like being present in the Grand Canyon. When I have these experiences where I actually exit out of my body and I'm inside the inner dimensions, it's just a completely different environment. Time doesn't exist. The laws of physics no longer exist. It is, quite amazing to be able to experience this via non-local consciousness.
And I'm always jealous, honestly, about these type of experiences. I talk about this stuff all the time. I've never had one extraordinary experience to speak of, right? Psychedelics withstanding, that's something that was self-influenced, right? Or self-induced. So, but I want to believe, and no, I totally believe what you're saying, but I want to experience like you have, because what you guys talk about sounds like the damn Grand Canyon. I want to go check it out. And it was told to me as well, look, you're not going to be able to understand this until you experience it. And that's something I'm very curious about. So do you think that everybody can do this? Or because I've heard people talk about supernatural abilities as just being natural because they are natural for them, right? But they would be supernatural to somebody that doesn't understand the concept, or even somebody like me that's very interested in the concept but has not experienced it. So do you guys, what do y'all think about that?
What about your dreams? Do you have vivid?
This is what's weird too.
Do you have vivid dreams?
I don't really dream that much. This is what's weird too. It makes me feel like an NPC, like a non-playing character, or like a clone or something. Because I heard that if you're a clone, you don't have dreams. Now, I will have dreams on if I'm coming down from psychedelic experiences, for sure. Those are very cool, but I don't know how much of that's the residual light show from the experience, you know what I mean? And not necessarily a dream, because the lines are pretty blurred between the experiences, right? But as far as just cool dreams and lucid dreams and stuff like that, I don't experience that either. So what's that? Am I a clone? Am I a non-playing character in this simulated reality? What's going on, Lynn?
Barbara, do you want to talk about the personality types?
Yeah, I'll say a few things. Well, first of all, Brandon, you should meet my husband, because he swears he doesn't dream. Every night. Oh, I never had any dreams, but everybody dreams, right? We all dream. Just some of us don't remember them. I dream really vividly in color. It's like so vivid, but I wake up, I don't remember. To answer your question, I think it's like anything, and I've mentioned this before, as far as like I always wanted to sing, right? I sound like a dead frog or a worm trying to sing. And everybody can sing. I mean, anybody can open their mouth, and I mean, I quote, but I'm never going to be like, a Lady Gaga, Christina Aguilera. We all have that ability, right? It's just some come into the world with greater dose, or more attuned, or, and I hate to say gifted because I don't like to use that term. But I believe we're wired differently. I believe we maybe have a higher vibration. And I know this is what Lynn was referring to. There is a personality type that is prone to having these experiences. And not everybody fits this type, but most experiencers do. I know I do, and I know Lynn does. And basically, one of the criteria is coming from a really difficult childhood. And this can be many things. It can be a childhood filled with abuse, either physical, emotional, or sexual. It can be, and one just profoundly, really, horrific memory that's seared into your mind. Like, for example, my husband, when he was growing up, his grandmother was living with him at the time. And they were in the room together talking, and she dropped dead on the floor of cardiac arrest, and his mother who was a nurse, was trying to resuscitate her to no avail. And that really scarred him. He hasn't had experiences, but something like that could trigger. The other thing is a child that has a rich imagination and is prone to disassociation. But what I talk about in the book is that disassociation is also a psychological coping mechanism, right? So if we come from a really difficult, stressful, hard childhood, a lot of us develop disassociation, right? We just space out, block it out. So that kind of is a fine line. Is it because of our childhood, or is it just something else that's hardwired into us? On top of that, we tend to be easily hypnotized, can just zone out. I just zone out all the time. Just I cannot try to, especially when I drive, but it just happens. It's like I can't stay focused a lot. We're very imaginative, creative, a lot of us are artists or writers or whatever in the creative field. We're usually a little rebellious, and we go against the grain. We're really fair oriented. We hate to see anything that isn't fair. We're almost obsessed with justice, so to speak. We tend to be very strong-willed, and we think outside the box. So a lot of those qualities in and of themselves don't lend themselves to, the norm behavior. And then under this umbrella of like the anomalous prone personality, it breaks it down into two pieces. It's just like a tree with, say, a few branches coming off. And one of them is the fantasy prone personality. And that's just a personality type that obviously is prone to a rich imagination, fantasizing and all that. And when I was young, my mom told me I was fantasizing all the time. She never believed my experiences. She'd say, "Oh, you have such a rich imagination. You're such a fantasizer." So I became labeled the fantasizer. And the other is the highly sensitive person, which it's, a lot of people think that's just a person who's overly sensitive. I get that all the time. But it's not just that. It's not that we are very sensitive, and we're usually empaths and can pick up on the feelings and vibes of the people we're around, the space we're in, sometimes even the ground that we stand on. But it also means not only are we take in that energy, but we also affect others. We affect electronic equipment. So it's a dual thing. Energy affects us, emotion affects us, and then our emotion and energy affects especially me. I'll say it blows out laptops, lights flicker, my phone's always having problems, things like that all the time. So
every single thing except the electronic stuff applies to me. The childhood stuff, the externalizing the crave for justice and intolerance of injustice, all of the things that you just said describe me. But I have had zero experiences. So is it maybe just that I'm not paying attention and that they're around all the time? Or maybe I'm that 0.0001% of the one that checks all the boxes that doesn't get to experience this cool stuff?
Brandon.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't you experience synchronicities all the time?
Now, that is the thing, right? And this is the one, because I consider extraordinary experiences what you talk about it, like in your book, about the NDEs, about the out-of-bodies, the past life memories, which is fascinating, and anything UFO or UAP related. But as far as being a manifester, I am great at that. Like, I can summon crazy shit into my life all the time.
That's part of it.
That's it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah.
Well, dope. I'm in the club, lady. Sweet.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll take it. And that's a great point. And I don't necessarily consider it extraordinary.
Absolutely.
I just consider it part of figuring it out, like figuring out the matrix or this reality or whatever. And I just think that, not of course for the most part, but I've got a good beat on it. I've got a good way of kind of, like I said, manifesting in my reality. It's been awesome. So that's a good point, Lynn. Thank you. Way to go. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's extremely powerful because, when we're in, like when I'm doing an out-of-body experience, I can manifest things quite fast, extremely fast. This is all dimensions. See, I look at this physical dimension, it's a dimension, and you're able to manifest things. That's amazing. That really is.
That's a damn good point.
You're definitely in tune to, you really are. Yeah.
I'll take it. See, I told you, ladies, I love y'all. Y'all are great for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like amazing. And your energy, obviously you have very, how I look at it, powerful energy field. And if you can manifest, in my mind, your energy is actually interacting with everything there is, right? And you're shifting and forming and changing it with intention. So, I think there are many people that think, oh, I can't do that. I have no gifts. I'm like pulling a blank here. but it's not like narrow. It's so broad based, Brandon. And what you're describing is definitely a part of this, big time.
Okay, it's pretty dope, and I like that. And
he's engaging. You're engaging the magic. You're a musician.
Yeah,
you're like a wizard.
Damn right. I tell my wife this all the time, but she doesn't listen.
No.
You know, I'm magic, right? She's like, settle down. She's there to balance me out, and it's a perfect balance. It's very cool. So, okay, what was I going to ask? It was something super dope. Okay, well, Lynn, let's talk about your experiences in your out of body May 19th of 2011. My notes are very small here. 2011.
Oh my gosh. Is this the one? Sorry. Is this the one where I saw beings, next to my bed?
Yes.
Was that the one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to, I feel like, when it comes to people experiencing, let's just say extraterrestrials or other types of beings, I feel like a lot of these types of experiences occur during probably out-of-body experiences. Now, if this is the particular one that you, because I'm not looking at the book, so I can't really remember which one, because I've recorded hundreds of OBEs in my OBE journal. But it's like I was laying in bed and I raised up and there were 3 beings standing next to my bed. And I remember, I was my daughter was younger. She was sleeping in the bed with me and I didn't feel afraid. I kind of felt startled a little bit and I kind of looked at her and made sure she was okay. And I lifted up my hand and I touched, a being in the chest. And it was really strange because you're probably thinking, okay, I should be freaking out. I should be like, but it was as if so many times already I was relaxed and it's like, okay, this is happening again. And so I just gallantly just sort of just laid back down and went to sleep. Now, I think a lot of people could probably think that this might have been an experience in the physical reality. I'm not quite sure if it was or not. I feel like a lot of these types of experiences that we have with non-human intelligent beings occur in the ethereal plane, and which is the plane that is closest to our physical body. And that is a way that they communicate with us. So when we're speaking of aliens and extraterrestrials, I call them non-human intelligent beings because, some of them look quite different than us. Some of them have, are humanoid. Some of them are human. So if that was the experience that you were talking about, yeah, it was quite profound. But I've had so many different ones where I've experienced. I've gone to different worlds. I have experiences with my spirit guides where they're teaching me things. And one of those is manifestations, being able to create things and change things. Others is to create portals to other worlds.
Cool.
So I've had many different kinds.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's interesting what you say about the experience happening in the ethereal, because I had a guy on named Ronald Kinsella. And Ronald Kinsella is part of a twin duo. Him and Philip are twin brothers. They're both experiencers. They're both authors. They're both wonderful. And so whenever Ronnie had his experience, what he talked about is that his astral body is what they kind of took to a ship or to a vessel or something like that. And that's why you're able to transmute through walls and doors and physical matter, because you vibrate outside of that in a different level. That's what's interesting to me. So the abduction, some of the abduction phenomena may take place in the ethereal, and it's got nothing to do with your physical body whatsoever. That's fascinating to me.
Absolutely. The interdimensional hypotheses is the one that I believe in. That's the one that I research. You can call it, there's the extraterrestrial hypotheses because, we're looking at some pretty cool things going on in the world right now, about the UFOs, the UAPs and stuff. But yeah, I definitely go into the interdimensional hypotheses where a lot of these contact experiences with what we view as aliens, including their ships and being taken aboard, are actually ethereal or astral projections. And that does not say that they are not real, because they're very real.
Exactly,
really
right? Because they're able to mess with you kind of on the level of the soul or the spirit level, where you tap into this little avatar, because that's all this is,
Yes.
right? This physical avatar, that's all it is. It's fascinating to me. I had a guy named Paul Askoff on the show. He wrote a book called UFOs, The Real Story. Fascinating guy. But he did this. He tied everything together. I spoke to you ladies the day that I recorded that episode, and I think I spoke to you all that afternoon, and my mind was blown because that was the first time we'd actually all three spoken together. And it was on the heels of this great awareness with this interdimensional hypothesis, which I love. It ties everything together. And so the more I think about it, the more sense it makes, right? Barbara, what do you think about that?
I haven't had an out-of-body experience. I have had no contact in that manner. Mine was like more I did have a sighting that has been verified by the government, and it happened when I was 10 years old in Kansas City. But mine was your stereotypical sighting, right? And I did have telepathic communication with the, quote, occupants inside. So that's my take on it. It's just what I saw visually, what I experienced, the information downloaded to me, and all that. And it was beyond it. I mean, it blew me away. I don't know if you want me to share that experience or not.
I would love that, please. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was living in Kansas City at the time, and we were having like really unusually hot weather. It was March, and I remember it being like in the 80s, like really, really hot. And my parents were like slaves to our yard. I mean, it had to be like perfect. It looked like a Home Beautiful yard, right? And so my sister and I, who just wanted to go outside and play, like we were like forced to do yard work. So anytime it was nice, that's it. You go outside, you do yard work. So I was outside with my father, and in the Midwest where we lived, there were very small plots. You know, we had like maybe 1/4 of an acre. So the homes were very close to one another, right? And you could sort of shout out to your neighbor and go, hey. So all the neighbors were outside because it was gorgeous. I mean, it was like summer, right? And a lot of them were doing yard work or just talking or whatever. And it was a cloudless, gorgeous day. And I was raking, and all of a sudden the ground got really dark. Like, you know, a vicious storm is coming and the clouds are so thick, and it's not as dark as night, but almost. And I'm thinking, what's going on, man? I mean, like, it's a beautiful day. It's like really sunny. So I looked up. My father looked up, everybody looked up in the neighborhood, you know, and there was an enormous disc, enormous. You know, I was 10 and I'm trying to remember it very realistically, but it at minimum, it was the size of 2 football fields, and that's minimum. And it was circular, totally circular. And it was a sort of like a brushed chrome, I guess that's the way you could brush stainless steel. And it looked like it was very thin, really, really thin. It wasn't a lot of the, you know, the cartoons or whatever, you know, the characterizations of them. They're thicker, or they have a little, you know, thing on top. It wasn't like that at all. It was extremely thin, but I could tell, even though I was little and I was short, I could kind of tell from the angle that there were little windows all around, you know, the circumference of it. And the thing is it just appeared. Like, it was a sunny, gorgeous day, and then it got dark, meaning nobody heard it approach, right? So here I am, a little kid. I hadn't learned this in school. And I said to myself, oh my God, it just appeared. That means that it traveled faster than the speed of sound. And I just knew that. And I just stood there absolutely mesmerized. And, you know, you're kind of looking at your neighbor and looking at this one, and they're all standing there staring up at the sky with our mouths were open. I had no fear, zero, none. In fact, to be honest, ever since I was little and started having experiences, I kind of was annoyed. Honestly, I've been asking to see a sighting. No, seriously. And I never saw one. So I was kind of getting annoyed, like, God, guys, can't you like pop in and visit me? And I'm serious. So I had no fear. And I think I said to myself, oh my God, you finally came. Like, it took you long enough. And then the thing is, so it was so low. It was maybe, and again, I'm really trying to not spin the perspective because I was so young. I would say probably 500 feet above us, maybe lower. So you could see it perfectly. And then all of a sudden I started getting this telepathic, conversation. And I didn't know if it was from one being or several beings, but I was just being told that, there's no need to be afraid. And I was saying, I'm not. And they said, yeah, we know that. And then they were telling me that they're really, really concerned. And you've probably heard this many times, ecologically, that we really, really have to get our butts in gear and start taking care of the earth. And they said, but you know that already, but you need to tell people that. I'm like, okay. And then they started talking about how we were going to land on the moon. This hadn't happened yet, so I'm dating myself, but how we'd be landing in the moon. And after that, we would start going on further missions, and we'd start actually collecting like lunar dust and lunar rocks to examine them. And they gave me further information about what was going to happen, like with the space program. And I just said, okay, well, thank you. And then they reminded me once again to please spread that message, because that was our number one concern. And to also tell people to not be afraid, because they were just observing. And actually they said, we're just observing you like you will be observing the moon and the moon dust and the moon rocks. And I never took my eyes off of it, not for 1 second, and it was gone, just gone. And then I said to myself, oh my God, first it came faster than the speed of sound, but it also traveled faster than the speed of light, because you couldn't see it leave. And there's no way, like, I didn't understand those scientific concepts when I was 10. I hadn't learned them. And it was absolutely amazing. So it was very real to me. My father was with me, all my neighbors. It was briefly in the Kansas City paper. But you know how you kind of doubt yourself at some level, because I was a child. So when we were working, Lynn and I were working on the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation, I was told about the Blue Book Project, which contains, oh my gosh, it's enormous. I forgot how many tens of thousands of cases it contains. But the government investigated many, 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 many claims of UFO sightings, and most of them were discredited. They were either like a weather balloon or another plane or, whatever. And this one was the real deal. And it was absolutely the real deal. And then I went back and I also checked historically, Kansas City weather, because I remembered it being a really warm day, right? So I wanted that other piece. Okay, yes, it was declassified. Yes, okay, check, it matched, it was verified. And when I went back and looked at the weather, Kansas City had a record-breaking heat spell that lasted 10 days in March, and it was the hottest on that particular day. I can't remember which day it was. I think it was like March 20th, and it was in the 80s, like the mid 80s. And I thought, okay, now I have my pieces. I remember the weather, why I was working outside in the yard. And then, it couldn't be disproved by the government. And, it was nice to have that validation all these years later. It really was.
Well, that would be cool, too, is if it's something you could summon like CE5 people, with the lasers and stuff like that, and they can kind of bring UFOs down. That'd be nice on like the hottest day of the year. You summon a 2-football wide UFO to give you some shade while you're working in the yard. You know what I mean? I'm in Texas. That would be useful. I could really deal with that. Even if that's my only experience, right? I'd be like, damn, these aliens are helpful. That's pretty cool. What's interesting about the UAP and the UFO phenomena is how many shapes they come in, how many sizes they come in, how many different descriptions of them. Their propulsion and their capabilities always, they follow a certain pattern which defy all of our capabilities right now. Like we can conceptualize, but we can't do it. But what's interesting about this is that you hear different reports. People will talk about that claim to have been in a UFO and say that there's no windows anywhere, but the wall turns into like a screen, like the whole damn thing. But then there are others that claim to have windows. So it's like, is that just a crappier model, like an earlier one where they had to have windows on it, It's like the Pinto to the Tesla kind of a deal. Like they've come a long way. And the variety of them are really interesting too. Lynn, what do you think? Has there been some evolution in the UFO over the years?
I think that, I'm trying to remember the book that I have recently read about how how we view these things kind of changes with our culture, and it changes with technology, sort of like how, like the flying saucers, even the entities themselves have changed throughout the years. It's sort of like, it really does. So it kind of really sort of goes along with possibility of how we are also part of this, of how, that our consciousness and how we see this is sort of entangled into the experience. So it's almost like a shared experience. So it's like, popular, what's become very popular now is, seeing the gray aliens. So a lot of people are now starting to see them because it's been popularized. It really has, from, since Communion and the author who wrote that.
Whitley
Strieber. Whitley Strieber.
Yep, I've got it right.
Whitley Strieber. Yes.
It's on the desk right there.
Yeah. So, I think that it's our manifestation also. It's sort of a, intertwined thing that's going on, because people also have different views and different experiences, and, and how we see things, people are going to, each individual may see something completely different, than the other people.
And this is what's interesting about it, because it does seem to morph and it does seem to change its face, right? And even Vallée, I know John Keel, of course, and then...
That's who I was thinking of.
Oh, yes, there you go. John Keel, of course. And I did talk to Brent the other day. Yeah. He's fantastic. He said Books in the Mail. Sweetheart. So his episode was wonderful. And Bob Davis here. He sent me his today. Whoosh.
Oh, yes, I have that.
Man, he is so cool. Oh, and all of those guys I met through your book. So it's like this hub of just incredible stuff. So back to the UFOs. So it does seem to be that they do kind of shift form, and that there's other things associated with them appearing the way that they do. And I've talked about on the show a couple times before how, like, the Vikings back in the day, they saw wooden ship. They reported wooden ships. They didn't say metal, or they had metal. They could have described it as a brushed stainless steel like you did, Barbara, but they didn't. They described it as a wooden ship floating in the sky. Now, they could create wooden ships that would sail, but they couldn't make them fly. And then, like with us, with like the Kenneth Arnold with his Delta Wing, and then you move on to the flap over, 47 with Roswell, and then you've got the flyover of the Capitol, and all of those were the disc, right? And they kind of followed, like, they were more Art Deco back then, right? And then they've turned into orbs, and they've turned into all kinds of things. And it does seem to shift with our conscious or our perception about it. So do you think that if enough people got together and said that they look like, I don't know, like a beetle, like a big beetle or like a dragon or something, and they thought about that one would appear in that way?
I believe it. I do. I mean, it's the power of manifestation. Mm-hmm. It goes along with, thoughts become things, and how we create those things. It really does. I mean, does it make it not real? I don't think so. I mean, it's still real. I think it's how we perceive it. It's so mind-blowing when you really think about it.
Doing this show for this long, I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if real is a real thing. I'll be honest with you. I have great, amazing conversations like the one that we're having now that constantly challenge my perception of or possibility. And so I'm just open to all of it, man. I think it's all great. But it is interesting how, like, the CE5 guys, like Greer and his team, they'll call in things with the power of the mind. And then it's like, I'm reminded of Lynn McTaggart's work with the power of 8, the intention setting stuff with the healing.
I love Lynn McTaggart. Oh, yes.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Fantastic.
I was part of the intention experiment.
Were you really?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, tell me about that.
Yes. I mean, when it all started, she had a huge forum called the Intention Experiment. And so she was conducting experiments with that. And she would put us into, groups. And this is before she wrote The Power of 8, because she also wrote, before the Intention Experiment, she wrote The Field. I'm a big Lynn McTaggart fan. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you are too.
It's like Garth Brooks to you.
For a couple of, Yeah, so we were in different groups, and what we would do is we would manifest things. We would have experiments. Oh my gosh, experiments with manifestation. So, yeah, we would try different things. We would try to change things. There was one person that we were attempting to heal. And so we would all meditate at the same time. And, at this person that we were sending healing thoughts to, their whole block, it's like the, everything just kind of exploded. Like, the lights went off and went out, and, it's really neat. I really, that sort of started me, in all of this. My journey was Lynn McTaggart's work, but yes, it's quite fascinating.
It is fascinating. And so to this point then, I mean, maybe because I get caught between the conspiracies and the ideas and stuff like that. It's always kind of with that filter, that I think that most of it's bullshit, right? Like what's going on around us and stuff like that. But it is something that maybe if there is some power out there that knows how to manipulate human beings in this way, like the world that we've ended up with now, where a few slip through the cracks. It's like a colander, like a strainer, right? Not all of the water, not all the stuff goes through, but a little bit will, like all of us, I guess, sitting here now that I'm a manifestor and I'm in your club. But it's very interesting how all of these things combined could manipulate humanity into believing that they're not as powerful as they are. Because what happens when you start talking about UFOs, you get that look in people's eyes because they want to fit in. And then they've been told that they're conspiracy theorists, which has this bad connotation to it or negative connotation to it, which is unfortunate because conspiracies are dope. And you're probably onto something, which is why they say that, right? So it feels now, though, with all of the, I don't care if you want to call it the Ascension, 2021, whatever, there's something going on planet-wide to where people are now starting to figure out that we are way more powerful than we were before. And I think that a lot more people are waking up. There have been a lot of heel digging in with the people that are not going to wake up in the sense of the word. But there does seem to be a mass consciousness shift. And, I always ask the question on the show, or I often ask the question on the show to people, if you had a genie bottle, you get 3 wishes, what would they be? One time somebody asked me that, and I said I'd only need 1 wish, and that is for the consciousness of humanity to raise to its next level. And the thing about that and why I wish for that is because that's when you take away child abuse, that's when you take away animal abuse. Nobody would do such things if they realized that next level of consciousness. It seems to be this, I don't know, like a level that some people in this world seem to be stuck on. So what's some advice or what's some observations that people can do? And one thing, before you'll answer that, I know this is a lot, but here we go. So one thing that I'm interested in too is maybe couples want to get together with this power of intention and do something to manifest something, because we find a lot of division between the male-female form or any partner, right? There's kind of a societal, I don't want to say joke, but people joke about it. Oh, my husband is so stupid, or oh my God, my wife's such a bitch, or whatever. But it's like this perpetuated, dissonance that doesn't exist for my wife and I. I mean, we just don't fall into that crap. And she'll even come home and say, oh my God, the ladies at work today talk so bad about their husbands. And it's unfortunate. So do you think that that's another way that whoever the they is trying to hold us back from our true power is by dividing us in all of these different ways, even within the household, so that we don't realize how powerful we are?
It's all about divide and conquer. It's all about, commercials and consumerism and falling for, what society tells us to do. They want to keep us asleep. They want to keep us, stupid, so that we can keep, feeding the rich and the rich and the rich. And have, and divide and have this world divided. This world should be one. So, when I think about, manifestation and the law of attraction, we are powerful beings. Can you imagine what thousands of us can do? We can literally change the world overnight, with our thoughts. So that is very dangerous, to people who want to be able to control the world, to keep the rich, to keep the poor, to keep them stupid, to keep them consumers. Yes. Can you imagine how powerful we can be if we just stood together and have those thoughts of prosperity, of healing, of oneness. It can change the world overnight. And yes, I feel like we are approaching that, and we're just kind of coming. We're experiencing the growing pains of that. It takes some major shifting to happen. But yeah, I mean, that's what we're all about, right? That's what you are about right now. Is you're trying to share that. You're trying to share the word.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it's all about. Barbara, what do you think?
Well, I was just going to say what Lynn did, about you. And you say you haven't had experience and all that, which we think you have, but people like you are helping with the shift, right? I mean, the word's got to get out there, and it's so important. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you're doing this and how important. For me, though, when I was little, materialism never made any sense to me, right? Growing up. And I never cared about it. It makes your life easier and all that, but I could never understand civilization and humanity. I didn't get why people, why wars started, why religion was so divisive, why there was so much division and not collaboration and not trying to help one another. It really made no sense to me as a child. And it's still, I'm not naive. I know, obviously, look, that's how it is. But it doesn't fit with who I am. And I think a lot of times, and I've said this to my husband, I think I've said it to Lynn, I've told him, I just want to go home. I don't belong here. I don't belong here. Like, I don't belong in a divisive place. And he'll go, what do you mean? What do you mean you want to go home? What do you mean you don't belong here? You're not suicidal, are you? Oh my God, do you need to go to a therapist? I'm like, no, it's just the vision I have for humanity, the vision I have for a shift in paradigm. It's happening, but it's happening for me. Maybe I'm impatient. It's happening very slowly. And I just want to grab everyone and shake them and say, hey, open your eyes up. So, yeah, I was that weird little kid that came into the world thinking this place is like nuts. Why do people act like this? But I do think it's shifting. I do think it's changing. And Brandon, you are helping with that, whether you realize it or not. Big time, a lot.
It's very sweet of y'all to say that. I do this because I enjoy it. I like people. I like connecting, and I like talking about the idea. So if it plays a benefit in someone's life, then that's beautiful. Yeah. I think it's bigger than me.
It
but
does.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah. And it never made sense to me either. The people living on the street, kids going hungry, people having to pay to survive, like just to live, just basic stuff. That's still weird to me. Part of me, and I'm from Texas, like born and raised, so there's definitely I'm not political at all, but there's definitely kind of a bootstraps type of a work ethic that I was instilled on as a child, and it's led me to great things because I've got a fantastic work ethic. If I could brag on myself just a little bit, I get shit done, but it's not out of fear of not achieving something. It's because I genuinely have a true desire to be productive and to connect and to learn new things and to explore this world, whatever the hell it is, for all of the amazing stuff that it is. And getting to talk to ladies like you and people like y'all and having conversations like this has blown my damn mind, because I don't know about y'all, but there's not a lot of people in Millsap, Texas that I can talk to, population 400. My donkeys have heard all of this and they're over it. They're absolutely over it. I'll be sitting outside looking at the moon and I'm like, that shit's not real, right? And she's so sweet. They just kind of sit there and let me vent. But no, it is interesting. And I think that the global shift is what's needed right now. And it's what's very important. So what I like about your book is everything. Cover to cover, it's a fantastic read. Y'all have written it very well. The dance between the two narratives, you can't tell two people wrote it. It feels like one mind. Especially, I don't know if y'all noticed this, but as the book went on, you guys just kind of molded into the same person. I don't know if you guys thought that out. The only way in writing style I was able to really tell, because it'd be like Lynn's experience is, and then it was really cool to kind of see the evolution in it. And like I was talking about like Brent Rains and Bob Davis, and you've got so many incredible stories in there. So what is one of your favorite folks that you got to help you out with the book? Lynn, let's start with you.
Okay, that's sort of hard to.
I know. It's like me, like
well,
asking me for a favorite guest. How about one that just intrigued you the most? Because I couldn't answer the guest one for sure.
Well, okay. There's one story from Bob Peterson, and it's really cool because me and Bob, we were friends on Facebook for a long time before I realized that I had one of his books. I didn't even know he was an author, an OBE author. So that was, really exciting because we were friends on Facebook, and it's like, wow, Bob, okay, you're, on your book it says Robert Peterson, but on Facebook it's Bob. And it's really neat because throughout the years, he was part of he was he was very pivotal in my growth, during these trying to understand these experiences. So, it was very exciting, knowing, through him and him sharing his experiences and me sharing mine to him, on several different Facebook groups, that, led to my growth and everything. So having him as part of the book was very, very exciting to me. So it was, to have such a dear friend, and he's awesome too. If you ever want to try to get in touch with him too, he's got an amazing sense of humor too.
Yeah, he's funny.
We're talking about Bob Peterson.
Yes, he's so funny.
He's very funny.
Very cool. Well, then I will have to reach out for him. We are friends on Facebook as well. I went through and kind of stalked a few people after I'd read your book, and that's how I got in touch with Brent and Bob Davis as well. But yeah, I'll get with him for sure, because it's just like this whole pack of amazing people that you guys got together. It's like you have this incredible soul tribe that you were able to bring in, and like I said, ladies, what's so cool about this is that you are experiencers as well, but you're also scientists. I mean, you look at this analytically, and this is one of the things, and we'll probably touch on this and wrap here in just a little bit, but one of the final things that I want to talk to you all about is about marrying the science and the philosophy, about marrying the physics and the ideas. It seems to be that that's honestly going to be the only way that this can work. Now, when I talked to Bob Davis, our episode together, I was talking to him about how just the observation that science really ignores the UFO phenomena in particular. I know you guys cover a lot of stuff, but let's just, for the example's sake, say the UFO phenomena in particular, because scientists, open scientists in the forefront won't acknowledge it as a thing, and they deny the hell out of it completely, the phenomena altogether, because they say there's no evidence, but there's tons of evidence. The people who have been doing the scientific research and recording it are the people who are experiencers. So whether you're a scientist or not, a lot of people have been taking this under their own observation and trying to deduce what's going on here. And that's why I think you have so many different ideas, and you've got this expanded version of that's why I think there are so many theories about the phenomenon. I mean, are they from other planets? Are they interdimensional, interterrestrial, time machines coming from the future? There are so many cool ideas, and I think it's because scientists have stayed the hell away from it, that you came up with all these people, independent researchers have been coming up with these incredible ideas. But I'm ready for scientists to step in, like Dr. Michael P. Masters. I've had him on, anthropologist, wrote a book about his hypothesis that UFOs are future humans coming back in time machines. I love this idea because time travel, it's badass, right? But and ladies like yourselves who are doing this real work here, neuroscientist Bob Davis looks into this as well. I mean, there are so many really cool scientists and educators that I think that it's unfortunate that it's going to take something like that, but I'm grateful now that you guys are starting to take a look at this stuff. So what do you think is the next step for the phenomenon? Let's start with Barbara. What do you think is the next step for the phenomenon?
The next step as far as
The
raising
research.
awareness, or
Just the research, getting more mainstream, getting Neil deGrasse Tyson to shut the hell up. And
yeah. Okay. Well, when you asked Lynn who she most resonated with in the book, right? I have two people. One of them is Heather Rivera, because she was my dissertation mentor when I was getting my PhD. But I would have to say Erica McKenzie, who, she had a near-death. Yeah, she had she's a registered nurse, and she had a profound near-death experience.
Yeah.
And this is what she does now. Okay. The near-death experience completely changed her paradigm, like blew her away, absolutely blew her away. And because she was a registered nurse, and even when she went for her initial training, way back when, she was really, really upset that there wasn't like a compassionate, patient-centered care component on the psych ward, right? And she felt that some of the people on the psych ward actually may have had some type of extraordinary experience and were being labeled as delusional, right? Or just psychotic. So she's always been very sensitive about that. So this is one of the directions that I feel we're going in. It's really important to me. Erica has worked tirelessly, if I can say that today, with and taken the stage all over the world, because she is working with medical schools, along with others, to actually write new curriculum, okay? So there'll be revised curriculum that is sensitive to experience of all kinds, near-death experiencers, anybody who's had any type of a spiritual crisis, say, right? And it's changing the way they look and define, in other words, something they may have previously defined or labeled as crazy or weird outside of our paradigm. We don't do that. This isn't traditional medicine or traditional science. As they're getting educated, it's opening up their minds. And as a result, they're becoming much kinder, more compassionate, more understanding. Some of their paradigms are shifting. And this is not only happening in medical schools, it's happening in curriculum in, some really well-known colleges. And Erica was a global ambassador to Johns Hopkins University, which did a worldwide research study on psi phenomena. So this is becoming commonplace in places like Princeton and even the University of Edinburgh, all over the world. So educationally and medically and scientifically, I think this is phenomenal, to actually rewrite framework in which to look at this and gain a completely different understanding. I'm excited about this. I'm very, very excited about this.
I share your excitement and enthusiasm. I think this is great. This is the time, right? It's now.
And I wanted I just wanted to add one more thing if I could. I'm so passionate about this that I signed up for training. It's not until early 2022. But people that are having spiritually transformative experiences and going through like a spiritual crisis, like you mentioned Bob Davis, he did. He had a Kundalini awakening and he went, I was trying to help him with that. But I think it's so important to be there for people that are going through this and to have them be able to share and express without being labeled, or invalidated. That the training I'm going to take is to become a group facilitator for people that have had spiritually transformative experiences. So they have a safe place, a place to talk, maybe expand their paradigm, help integrate the experience, because that's what I'm saying. It's part of this whole re-education and a shift in how you perceive people and their experiences, because this is one thing I think is really important. Even if, say, a traditionalist or, somebody that doesn't believe in non-locality or experiences, even if they don't believe it, it's really real to the person experiencing it. And I think we have to honor that, So.
Yeah, completely agree. And there's a lot of people that do study this stuff and don't believe in it at all. I study the hell out of it, have never personally experienced to that level what you're talking about.
Right.
And I think it's wonderful, of course. And it's not my job to invalidate anybody else's experience, and I don't think it should be anybody else's either, because it's all very personal.
Right.
Whatever you go through, it's very personal. You can't prove that it wasn't. So, Lynn, what do you think our next step is with marrying the science and the phenomena together?
The scientific method is very flawed, in how it, presents, the experimentation, the data and things like that. Because, even a person who's conducting experiments can, have a great influence on the outcome. So That's part of the law of attraction. So yeah, it is. Science is definitely flawed in that. I was, when it comes to, the exciting things that are going on in the world right now with the UAP stuff, it's like, should we depend upon the government to be able to give us this information? Instead of, we have all these amazing people out there like Brent Rains and all these types of people that are out there in the field that really do have a better understanding, of what's going on, because they're out there, they're interviewing people, they're going to the places, they have all this field experience that the government doesn't even seem to even want to do or has any understanding of it, but, to me in all of this, I could never really, because I have a science background and I had to try to understand it as scientifically as possible. It's going to take, quite a bit of the understanding of quantum mechanics and things like that, because, this is not, Newtonian physics anymore. It goes beyond the mechanical universe. It really does. We're moving. So it's like, it's part of having to move away from, standard science, which is all mechanical. We have to move into something different to understand all of this. I mean, I don't know exactly how to answer that, but I mean, it's sort of like how science and religion are basically the same side of the coin, or science and spirituality. It's the same thing. It really is. It's like, trying to find what God is, what the universe is, what the divine consciousness is. It's really the same thing. So it's almost like you have to kind of look at it as the same thing instead of something completely separate. Duality is pretty much what has destroyed this world.
Yeah. I agree. And there is a cool book by Mel Schwartz. I had him on, called The Possibility Principle, and he talks about this, the difference between the mechanistic world and the participatory reality that we actually live in, not this mechanistic Newtonian physics type of reality like was fine before, right? It got us to this point. But this is the change. This is the we're turning the page here. We're ready to explore all these grander topics, and we're ready to get funding for it. That's the big deterrent on this stuff, because if people in general, of course, we're generalizing, but you start as, a physicist or something looking into this, and then all of a sudden your funding's cut. It's like, what the hell are we doing here? Is it science or not? And then the people that say the science is settled on this, both of you are scientists. Do you think that the science has ever settled on anything?
Never. It's always changing. Yeah.
I agree. And this is what's interesting about it. I think this is the next step with books like yours. I mean, and I put your book, ladies, in the category of Holographic Universe and Into Upside Down Thinking by Mark Gober. I mean, this is the type, like, you're up there as far as this type of style of book. It's fantastic. So, of course, I will be linking in the show notes all of this stuff, ladies. Barbara, we'll start with you. Did you have any way you wanted to sign off? And we'll probably cap it for this one, but I'm going to have you back on. I'm already setting up a panel with Bob and Brent. So we're going to do like a big discussion. I think what I'm going to do is just have all the people that have been in your book, and we'll just all get together and have a conversation about all these amazing topics. Does that sound cool?
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I just wanted to, all I wanted to say is, the bottom line is that Lynn and I think of ourselves as experiencers first and foremost. I mean, we really do. And I just have a little saying that, it's kind of like one of my little things. And I always say the experiential is just as important as the science. And experiencers know, we just know what science is trying to prove. You know why? Because we've had that experience. What is an experience, right? I mean, how do you prove love? How do you prove, there's certain things that are very difficult to prove. And when you're a lifelong experiencer, you may not have the technical terms necessarily, or the mathematical skill to, say, present it in some type of findings or research studies. But we understand it in just like a really holistic, big picture way. So Yeah, that's just like what I like to say. But we have to marry them. I don't know. I think it's science. And again, I wish the funding were there. I think that would help move this forward. And the reason we wanted to include all these people that we're talking about in the book is we thought that was so important. Here are people from all different types, walks of life, basically. And through their either research or their personal experiences, we've all come to the same conclusion, right? And so that's sort of like a little microcosm of the world. And if we could reach a broader base of people and bring this in to the mix, I mean, just think of how that would shift paradigm. So this was intentional. We intended to do this, to bring these people into the book.
I love it. It's perfect, and I get why you did it. It's so well done. It's chapter 8. You just get into it. It's fantastic. And it's like if science could explain something like dreams, like if they could just go, oh, here's what dreams are, something that everybody except for me apparently experiences. Most normal people experience them. If you're not a clone, then you're dreaming. And then like deja vu. Like if you could explain that, I think, let's focus on that. Maybe we stair step into poltergeist activity. Let's start with deja vu because that's something that everybody can relate to, dreaming, stuff like that. And then jump on into UFOs and transdimensional stuff and time travel. I'm all about that. I'm ready for the time travel stuff. So, Lynn, what are your final thoughts for this?
Well, I mean, we are so much more than our physical bodies. We are masters of the universe. Our consciousness continues, beyond, death. We are so much more than what we are. We're so powerful. We're such powerful beings. And, so having these experiences, make me realize that there's so much more out there that we can, experience, that we can discover. And it's such an amazing adventure. It is such an amazing journey. And, it's part of who we are. It's part of our human experience. Because as human beings, we are interdimensional beings. We are so much more. And that's pretty much, kind of like the big picture of how I look at.
It's beautifully said. I love it. And I love you for your time, both of you. Thank you so much. We will do this again. Your Soul Tribe. So let's do this again. And yeah, we'll do something cool like that with a panel with the people that you've had in here. We'll get a hold of Erica, of course, and I've got Bob and Brent on retainer, so we can just go ahead and get them involved as well. They said they're ready to go. So, everybody involved in this project is fantastic, by the way. Y'all are just so much fun and so great. I can't wait. I want to hook you guys up with like a documentary filmmaker or something like that. I'll have Darcy reach out to you. A good friend of mine, Darcy Ware, and y'all need to make a movie on your book. Especially just the interviews and explaining the ideas. I think that would be really, really cool. Lynn's down. She's on it. Okay. And no using the excuse of your appendix because you've already pulled that one, so we can't do that. Ladies, just wanted to thank you so much for your work and so much for your time. Y'all keep moving forward. We'll keep up with you for sure, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been great. Appreciate it.
Namaste.
A massive thanks to Barbara Mango and Lynn Miller for coming on and talking about their book, Convergence, The Interconnection of Extraordinary Experiences. Check the link below in the description, guys, to procure this incredible book. It is fascinating, and I highly recommend. 10 out of 10 would recommend. So as far as this show goes, guys, you can find us at expandingrealitypodcast.com. That is where the links to all of the socials will be found. The video version of this, if you're an audio-only listener, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's an option. There's a YouTube version of all this stuff. We put all the interviews up so you can see everybody's beautiful faces and see us all interact visually if you prefer that medium. So you can do that from the website or just go to YouTube. Also on the website is Patreon. If you find the show valuable and you're like, man, what can I do besides liking, sharing, and enjoying this show, which I always approve of. I love that. Thank y'all so much for everything. Then you can do so at Patreon. Contribute as little or as much as you'd like. I'm grateful for all of it, guys. So thank y'all so much. The music that you are hearing underneath this, of course, good friend of the show, great friend of mine, Vinny the Saint. Check his link down in the show notes as well, and check out some amazing music that he makes. Incredibly grateful, Vinny. Thank you, my friend. So this week, guys, go out into your world and pick up a piece of litter. Don't litter, first of all, but pick up a piece of litter. Be nice to animals, of course, everywhere you're at. Be nice to each other by buying somebody in line behind you a coffee or a meal or a book of stamps or something to that nature, guys. It doesn't have to be massive, whatever you can, but it makes a massive, massive difference. And this is the only reason I keep advocating for it, because it does make such a massive difference on a huge scale, bigger than you think. The ripple effects of that are massive. The ripple effects are also massive of you getting out of the left-hand lane. Thank y'all so much for doing that. A lot of people have reached out saying that they didn't even know that was a thing, and it is a thing. We've got a lot of people moving here from other places to Texas, so just wanted to let you know. I don't know how y'all do stuff in wherever you came from. Let's say California, for instance. We're grateful you're here, but get out of the left-hand lane, because we Texans are a little bit different. So other than that, guys, go out into your world this week and just be good to one another. Thank y'all so much for listening. We'll see you next time.